When I first came back from Tucson, Arizona, I needed some fill-in work until I got settled, so I got a job at a gas station. And I was working alongside this young kid, and he asked me a bunch of questions. I didn't think anything of it, but the next thing I know, I'm getting woke up at 5:30 in the morning by a television news crew. And they asked me to come downstairs. I lived in an apartment above the American Legion. And I went downstairs, and they had a little ceremony for me. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but just keep in mind, they woke me up at 5:30 in the morning. And I tried to look as presentable as I could, but I had long hair back there. And it's not looking all that great. But here's a story. I hope you enjoy.
As unlikely as it may seem, two young men just a year apart in age grew up in Grand Ledge, graduated from the same high school, and served in Vietnam, yet until last month they had never met. As Chris Alexander tells us, it happened because of a hat. Here's her report.
It was just hanging by a string, and then a gust of wind came through and it flew out of the helicopter.
That was the last time John Buckner ever saw his Army rain hat, 21 years ago when he served as a helicopter gunner in Vietnam. The same year, Dan Schroeder served as a foot soldier.
One day in late September or early October of 1970, I went into our company supply room.
Schroeder says a pile of clothes sat in the corner, this hat among them.
I could read the word grand. So I walked over and pulled it out of the pile, and there, staring back at me, was the words Grand Ledge, Michigan. I left with it, brought it back with me. I left just a few weeks later, and I hoped that someday I could find the owner of this thing.
Late last year, Schroeder's son, Brad, started a new job at the Total gas station on West Saginaw, the same place Buckner works.
He wanted to know if I knew his mother and father because they were from Grand Ledge as well. And I knew his father's brother, but I'd never met his father before. And I started asking him if he was in the Army, and he said yes.
Just came home and told Dad about it. He said, well, ask him if he knows a lady named Felicia. And so the next day I saw him, I asked him, and he said he did.
He says, you're not going to believe this, but we have your hat. And I said, you're kidding.
But Brad wasn't kidding. 3 weeks later, at an American Legion meeting, Dan Schroeder met John Buckner for the very first time, and the hat exchanged hands.
It's very sentimental to me. It means a lot to me. I'm just really glad to have it.
Chris Alexander, TV 10 Action News, Grand Ledge.